It's BD. It's time for the July 2023 question and answer session. I might have to take off my shirt because it's really fucking hot in my office. This is going to be a little more chill than normal. I am literally just doing an OBS screen share and then going to do what I normally do during live streams. Speaking of which, if you prefer the live streams, let me know. It just seems like long term they don't do that well. So I'm going to stick to the recorded versions of the live streams. But if you prefer them, let me know. I'll try to work them out. Another big thing is I just released BD's Big Book of Length. I'm not going to edit the name because, that takes effort. But essentially, it is everything I've learned over the past 8 months condensed into a 95-page book. So if you don't know, what I've been doing is that I've been looking at physiotherapy research, applying it to penis enlargement, testing it, showing its efficacy over the past 8 months. So obviously, it's pretty disorganized. So if you want my streamlined thoughts, get my book at peakmalphysique.com. It's 95 pages right now. Before pictures. Pictures will be added next week. Best thing about this is since it's an ebook, I'll be able to make updates to it whenever I want, and you'll have my most up-to-date version of length theory moving forward, and you'll get an email every time a new version is made. Okay? Okay. So, first question. How about making an updated protocol regarding beginners? It says FunPath in 5705. FunPath 5705. Okay. Well, FunPath and 43 others. I tried to have it out yesterday. YouTube did not like having my semi-erect penis up on PMP demos, which was my burner account, and shut it down. Like, there is no trace of that channel left. Meanwhile, other people can post a scammy thing from Penis Professor, and that's not taken down. But I digress. Anyway, to scramble, I had a contingency to put it on Pornhub. Pornhub now requires like a 24 to 48 hour waiting period because they have to check it manually for kiddie porn. Now, that just sounds like the worst job ever, like soul sucking, but I get it. When it was finally approved, the file was corrupted. So I'm redoing the whole process right now. It should be up sometime tomorrow, and there will be a post going into it. The main reason why I put off putting it up is because of business reasons, I'm being completely honest. It was supposed to go along with my book. Basically, a taste of what's in my book, so more people will buy it, because I am running a business after all. So, yeah, but it fell flat on its face, so it's no big deal. I'm assuming sales will be the same. I'm not really concerned about sales. I'm just trying to be comfortable, not ultra rich, so you'll probably see that a lot in like my prices. Anyway, it'll be out very soon. If it's not out by next week, there's some huge issues at Pornhub, okay? Can you make an official pre-girth workout Tunica routine, something we can just watch and immediately adapt? Dildos for visual examples. Well, last video we got lucky talking with dildos. I can't do that more than once probably without getting the channel taken down. But I do have a piece of foam. I think. Here we go. Okay, so the gist is you want to do a little bit of elongation, a little bit of shear stress, and then probably a little bit of malleability to your dinger before you pump it up, so that way it has a lot of flexibility and give to begin with, and then you're not fighting against the tissue. So right now, I'm thinking you want blood flow restriction massage, and someone pointed out that that's not a good way to describe what we're doing. It literally means cutting off blood flow, semi-erect, to do a 5-minute massage. Yes, it's not angiogenic in any sense whatsoever, but literally, by definition, blood flow restriction, right? Sorry, it's semantics. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so BFR massage, 5 minutes up and down. Then, it doesn't really matter the order, but then some kind of shear stress to cause the tunica albuginea to elicit some growth factors and relax. So collagen fibrils kind of rub against each other, and if you make that kind of stress, they rub against each other more, releasing a bunch of growth factors and fatiguing the tissues a little bit. And it's also really good to break down like any buildup on the tunica, whether it be disorganized collagen fibrils or like calcium buildup or potentially peyronie's. So like tunica shears, which were formerly diamond jellics, you make like a pinch motion, put your dinger in, leave a gap between the tip of your penis, pinch, pull, 1 second strokes, release, pull, and ideally you're wearing a cock ring or gripping at the base to pull. Okay, then bundled stretches, and this doesn't twist that well. By the way, you can get these sleeves at peakmyphysique.com. But anyway, bundle stretches. So if you're under 6 inches, you only need one stretch or one bundle, because I don't think you're going to be able to get too twisted easily. Don't focus so much on the elongation, but focus on the bundle itself. So you want to be doing more of a twist rather than a stretch, and that's actually going to be safer long term, because then you're only putting one force on the penis. Then if you're over 6.5 inches, you can work up to 2 twists. I really don't see the point of doing 3 twists, because like look how much of a corkscrew it's becoming. You're probably going to be doing more damage than you really are stimulating. You want to do 1 minute set each side. So 3 left, 3 right. You can probably do it in the apex. I've had issues because I use the lotion method and my glands just spin in the bell. So I've been just doing it all manuals, and besides, most of you probably don't want to have to buy a length device as well as a girth device, because then we're talking about $300. So there's that. Then what else did I say? We're at BFR massage, we're at tunica shears, we're at bundled stretches, and honestly, that's probably enough for now. Based off of the quick, I did about a week of girth stuff before I got too busy to continue with it, but I would get 6% expansion after 20 minutes on my second routine. That's another important thing, is that it takes a little bit for this expansion to build up, because either your endothelial tissue needs to work on its capacity to blow up that much, or there's a bit of needed degradation in the tunica to expand. I still need to like play around with it, I guess, or think about it more. But yeah, just remember that going forward. I think that's all I need to really talk about right now. I'm working on the girth stuff. It's just between Leviathan, Peak My Physique, which is honestly doing much better than expected, my book that I spent like 20 to 30 hours on in the past week and a half on, and then the release, I've been busy as hell. So unfortunately, my own penis is no longer my goal with this stuff. It's helping as many guys as possible. So yeah. But that also requires me to do my own stuff. It's like a catch-22. Alright. Laris Christus and 18 others is doing length and girth work alternately every day, overwork, or just fine. It's probably very inefficient. So let's think about this. We need to hit certain metrics, right, to guarantee gain. So I'm saying 4 to 6% elongation while under load, or that would be 2 to 4% longer after your session to show that the collagen fibrils are sufficiently fatigued. Then for girth work, we need to hit about 6 to 8% expansion. So that's going to take a bit of work in most cases. In my experience, when I was doing my elongation stuff at like the tail end of like training blocks, if you want to call them that, I was getting just under 5% expansion. So there is an avenue for, like, say you add 5 more sets of interval pumping, you could technically get length and girth gains on paper, but the problem is doing it every other day is that you are not allowing the growth response to happen. So you heal at rest. If you're constantly stressing out the tissues, they're not going to grow. Interesting study I found, and I kind of need to work this into my theories too, is that scientists took collagen fibroblasts. They put them in a solution. One was just a basic solution, and then one solution was just doused with transforming growth factor 1 beta, I think. Just growth factor is what causes collagen to grow and divide, or collagen fibroblasts. The one that was surrounded by growth factor took twice as long to proliferate than the one that was not in any growth factor. It was pulsed, the release. So they drop in a bit of growth factor every day instead of having it in constant. So what that means for us is that if the tissue is chronically releasing growth factor, it will actually slow down because it's desensitized to growth factor. And that means if we are constantly, say, extending for 8 hours, that tissue is chronically stressed, chronically receiving the signals to transform, if you will. It's just going to need more and more growth factor that you eventually won't be able to produce the amount you need. And then you need to take a reset. So that's the important thing about rest, is that that period does two things. One, keeps you relatively sensitive to transforming growth factor. Two, it actually allows you to build up new tissue. So that's why all routines right now are every other day. And there's a bit of play. You can do probably 5 days a week or 3 days a week, depending on how fast you heal. Good burp. Okay, that was a good one. Most optimal girth work protocol. Well, we already went over the semi-erect bends and stuff like that, so go back about 5 minutes, watch the beginning, but it was a mix of semi-erect bends. Or was it? No, it wasn't semi-erect bends. I was thinking of the beginner's routine. It was BFR massage, Tunica shears, bundled stretches, and that's going to take you about 10 to 12 minutes. Then you're only going to need 10 sets total of interval pumping, so 2-minute sets, 20 minutes total. You're probably going to want a 5-minute break in between. Every 3 to 4 days, you're going to do 10 minutes of clamping. That's it. And right now, with the quick little stint I had with it, I had insane erection quality. And my wife immediately said I was thicker. Granted, I probably gained back a little bit of erection quality and just tissue flexibility in the outwards direction, but it's very promising. I just gotta sit down and do it for a month straight. God, a lot of pumping questions today. How to properly pump before sex? Well, it depends what you're going for. If you're a fetish pumper and your partner's into it, 3 20-minute sets to get the blob penis that some people find attractive. If you're trying to just look natural but be bigger, all you need to do is 2 sets, 5 minutes of interval pumping. Wait, flip that. 5 sets, 2 minutes of interval pumping, and it is going to be probably about a quarter of an inch bigger, but the more important thing is going to be much denser. And it's going to feel natural. And let's see, for me, that increase in size lasts about 4 to 6 hours, so you don't have to do it immediately beforehand. My wife definitely notices, so I know it's a thing. Let's see. You do not want to overdo it, because what that's going to do is just tire you out, and you're going to have piss poor erection quality. And so, if you're that fetish pumper that I talked about before, you are just leading yourself up to having a tacit, flabby penis during sex. And most of the time, that doesn't lead to good female orgasm or male. It's more like the fetish of it that gets them aroused enough to come. But I digress. Okay, question. Best way to break through plateaus. When they have happened, how you've resolved them, or which techniques you've used. How can you see one advance? Are there ways to avoid them? I personally have been very fortunate and made good gains, but the last little bit to hit my length gains has been stubborn. Now I'm only going 4 days a week for length and taking week breaks between every 4 to 6. I've introduced a more serious girth routine to see if that helps. Okay. Huge employee 2825. You've been around a while, huh? Probably one of the first 1,000 and getting bigger now that I think about it. But as we talked about, there is two things that we kind of have to avoid now when it comes to penis enlargement. One is hormone desensitization. Desensitization. When the growth factors stop working. I do actually have a hair tie. What do you know? So when your growth factors stop being sensitive, you will not grow. Then we have to worry about strength adaptation, where the amount of work you are doing will no longer cause elongation. So we need to avoid excessive load. We need to also make sure we're not doing it often enough and chronically to cause the desensitization. That is a hard word, believe it or not. Hold on. This is the hard part. Okay. Desensitization. So, what I am currently thinking is every 6 months you switch between length and girth, mainly because it's two different kinds of stimulus. You're getting that expansive dominant stimulus with pumping predominantly, and then with your length work you're getting predominantly elongation stimulus. They're pretty different, however they will cause the same release of transforming growth factor, but it's mainly to different tissues. Then between those 6 month breaks you want to probably take 3 to 4 weeks off so that any desensitization that happened in the previous 6 falls off. And this will also cause probably about a 20 to 25% drop in strength adaptation based off of the research that I put in my book, again, link in the description, to fall off. So that way you're very fresh going into your next session. I honestly think we need to take a bit more of a smart protocol like you would see in bodybuilding, where you focus on the deload weeks to actually get the results you want. And actually that's something I suck with. Deloads in general, I don't know if it's my psychology, but I cannot get myself to do them properly. I'm forcing myself to do one now in the gym. Anyway, so breaks are going to be your best friend. I do not think switching between routines is actually going to do anything just based off of the science. But if you're just trying to squeeze out a bit, you want to change the stimulus a bit. So let's say you've been hanging out, doing straight out a bit, or only doing straight out, I mean. Try straight down, and you'll be stretching from a different angle, potentially working different collagen fibrils. On top of that, you'd be actually hitting the ligament. If you never hit the ligament before, you could potentially see about 1/4 of an inch gain in length that way. Yeah, I am sweating. I don't know if you can tell. It's like 90 degrees outside and humid. Like, some of you guys probably in Arizona, like, that's it. Like, you guys don't have humidity. I'm surrounded by 3 rivers. We're in Pittsburgh, remember. Excuse me. Okay, let's see. I think I did a decent enough job answering the huge employee question. Okay. Heft to JV. How to use a cock ring to see any potential gains. Alright, so the easiest way is to clamp, and you're going to probably need a big handle of them, like a big bunch. I stack 3 to 4 on top, and I do 10-minute sets, 1-2 times a week currently. Beforehand, I would do it literally for 40 minutes, and now that I think about it, it would just cause a bit of pelvic floor strain, so like I'd be urinating frequently. That's why I've been rethinking my clamping methods. Like, is everyone just pissing their pants more often now, or what? But since I stopped doing it so frequently, I've had much better control over my kitten bladder. But yeah, just soft clamping, BFR clamping is what I'm calling it. 3 to 4 cock rings, or you can do something called toe sleeves, but you gotta cut them, and, you know, that's just extra work, right? The gains from clamping are not going to be typical, or like typical gains from, say, pumping. You really aren't going to cause massive changes in form with clamping unless you have a relatively weak connective tissue genetically. So what you can do is pack in the density of the blood vessels, and that's what BFR is for. It basically causes a stent, then your body builds up more blood supply for in case the stent ever happens again. So the more often you are oxygen deprived in a certain area, the more blood vessels you have. So if the penis is predominantly made up of blood vessels and collagen, the blood vessels exert pressure on the tunica to expand further and further, so we can get bigger, thicker, or denser erections, but you'll be limited by how much tunica albuginea you have. So eventually you'll need pumping and length work if you want to get longer or thicker, because you need to create more collagen. Who cares? Asks, who would win in a fight between BD and Hink? Alright, I thought about this. So, we need to look at the stats, right? Hink's like 6'5", 216, 220. I am 6'1", 220. So, if it's a fisticuffs fight, he's probably going to win based off of reach. But, I took 2 or 3 years of like martial arts sword fighting when I was younger. So, as soon as we start getting into weapons, he's screwed. Basketball. That's tough. I don't know how much training basketball Hink has. He has a bit of a height advantage, but I've literally was being looked at by some D1 colleges for basketball at one point. So, hate to toot my own horn, but that's a tough one. Football, he would crush me. I don't know. Wrestling, I might have the advantage just because I'm more dense, so it's hard to pin me down. I can use his body for leverage, but I don't see us doing a boxing match anytime soon, so. Oh, make sure you check out Hink's channel. It's Hinkle McCringleberry. He'll be in the links in the description below. He does a much better job talking about like injury prevention and all that jazz, and he still has very useful takes on other things. Okay, holiday. It's these adept words, jeez, because was it addendum that I messed up so much before? Holiday adeptness 858. Games that have 1 inch both in length and girth can it be done with manuals only? On paper, yes. However, as someone who's did only manuals for like a year and a half in my parents' attic, it is a pain in the ass. So most people would probably still be doing manuals if it wasn't such a pain in the ass. Okay, you can do it. Girth is going to be much harder because you need to build up internal pressure in the penis, and unless it's going to be very hard for you to get enough pressure built up in the corpus cavernosum naturally to cause the exertion needed to stretch out the tunica. So that's probably off the table. So, okay, my real answer is yes in length, girth probably not. You can not gain them with manuals only. Wait. Okay. I'm not editing this video, so let me rephrase. Girth. You can probably not do manuals only. Length, you can for sure do with your hands only. Can you gain 1 inch in length and girth in general? Yes, I've done it. So has probably Hink and a bunch of others on r/getting bigger. It just takes a lot of time. We're talking about 2 to 3 years. Barring any stops. Actually, you probably do want stops. Barring any bad luck. Sorry guys, I zoned out for a second. I was reading the questions without actually looking at them. Where are we at? How much weight do you use right now in your length protocol? Do you see the point in ever going over 10 pounds, says Plipe at 24. Let's see, I've been doing about 57 millimeters worth of tension on the apex, which is about 7 to 10 pounds. So, I need to switch to FaceTime chat. So, if we look at this Okay, I'm just going to go off my observations. One, as soon as I started to try to crank up the tension, I noticed tissue contraction, and that means we're stressing out the tissues. So we want to avoid that. That's why I've never gone beyond 10. If I'm right, and let's be honest, I usually am at this point, um, the break every 3 to 4 weeks basically limits the amount of strength adaptation you can get. So since I've basically capped myself at 7 to 10 pounds, there's no point for me to go beyond that. However, the real caveat is with compression hangers. They're going to need about 3 to 4 pounds more weight to see the same changes in a vacuum hanger just because of how they grip. It's not the end of the world, it's just something you got to account for. But at any rate, if you set up your programming right, you'll never really need more than 7 to 10 pounds of tension. And yeah. So I think I covered that. Best way to close a massive gap between bone press stretch flaccid length and bone pressed erect length. Astro Polo asks. Okay, so right now I am just under 9 inches bone press stretch flaccid. My erect length is about 8.5 inches bone pressed. Why I switched to girth is to try to fill that out. So we need more endothelial tissue. There are 2 ways to build up endothelial tissue. There's high pressure events, so pumping, and then there's hypoxic events such as clamping. So the name of the game is doing like traditional girth work, what I now call expansive and blood flow restriction work. Ideally, it will come in about 3 to 4 months from what I've been seeing, but you should also be gaining girth at the same time to kind of offset it. But that's what I'm thinking. If your cardio is crap, meaning like you don't train cardio, start training cardio. My protocol is 10 minutes of steady state every day, 2 to 3 sets of actually like high intensity cardio. So it's, for example, 2 miles of jogging, that's like 3 or 4 kilometers for you metric users, or hit interval training or wind sprints. And that's going to be about 10 to 15 minutes of high intensity cardio a week. And that's going to really get your heart stronger, and therefore the stronger your heart, the stronger your boners. So that's my main thing. Additionally, you could look into pelvic floor health, and that's another question or better topic for Hink, as he understands that stuff a little bit better than me. Okay, I'm getting a little tired, guys, so I'm only going to answer a couple more. The Blind Traveler. Will you release a comprehensive protocol that addresses both length and girth work at the same time? Sometimes cobbling together a routine for both mixing routine is the only thing, or should you do one or the other? It's both daunting and confusing. As you can see, I am getting tired. Okay, so I don't believe in mixing and matching. I believe in divide and conquer. However, and apparently I didn't do a good enough job explaining this, we need to stop thinking about things like the exercises, this is for length, this is for girth. We need to start thinking about this and like how can we formulate the perfect ratio to elicit the most amount of gains in one direction. So for length, we're obviously going to need tissue elongation, but we're also going to need to fill in that tissue, and we're also going to need to make that tissue easily stretched. So we need to do a bunch of elongation work. We need to do some pumping to fill in the tissue, and then we need to do like Tunica release stuff to make that tissue more flexible to start. For girth, we're going in this direction instead of this direction. So we need to also make the tissue very flexible, but we need to focus more on expansion. And then on top of that, we're going to need more stimulus for angiogenic effect, because it's like twice as much volume per gain window, if you will. Because we're talking about area instead of just the or Z axis, however you want to look at it. So since we need different environments for optimal. Oh my god. So since we need different environments for optimal gains in both girth and length, that's why it makes more sense to divide and conquer. You should not be doing a whole bunch of expansive work, and you should not be doing a whole bunch of elongation work at the same time. We are trying to avoid overwork. And we're trying to build the environment that I talked about to elicit the most optimal path for elongation or expansion. Make sense? Okay, last one. How do you personally combat a tough Tunica while doing both length and girth work? Ask OK Telephone 82. Okay. So first, what is a tough Tunica? So are we saying a 3-layered individual, the 2.5%, that is going to be a classically hard gainer? Or are we talking about someone that has overworked the tissue to the point where it is stiffened up and hard to work with? Both would probably actually have the same treatment, and that is going to be more tunica release and tunica malleability, because we are applying stimulus to it that no longer, or does not really handle that well. So like, for example, the pressure point massage is going to cause the collagen fibrils to relax. Doesn't matter how thick they are, doesn't matter how strong they are, if they're relaxed, they're going to be easier to work with. Same with thicker collagen fibrils. So that's the main thing, really. Additionally, you could try heat. So if you heat up a tissue beyond like 105 degrees Fahrenheit, it starts turning more like warm putty than it is like a collagen fibroblast. I don't think it's like the be-all end-all for gains like some people think, but it's a useful thing to break plateaus, or if you're having issues hitting strain metrics. But I'm not so sure. Oh, the last thing is taking a break. So taking a break is going to cut the amount of tissue strength there is. Achilles tendon loses 68% of its strength after being held in stasis for 84 days. So if we just go off the math, if you take 90 days off, you'll lose 85% of your tissue strength, and then they'll be easier to gain again. Okay? So, that one seemed a little bit more chill, and that's what I was really going for. If you want to support me, I highly implore you to check out my book, because that way you get a lot more bang for your buck than you would otherwise. Otherwise, there is Leviathan Sups, where you can get high quality, stimulant-free pre-workout under the name Vigor, also available on Amazon. You can get Virility, our seminal volume booster, and slight libido enhancer based off of the science. That wasn't really the intention, that's why I'm saying slight. Then we also have Vitality, which is down in my kitchen, for testosterone boosting. Instead of being like a normal testosterone booster where you just focus on the building blocks, Hink and I formulated this one to focus on stimulation of testosterone. Assuming that most of you guys have a normal diet, it makes sense to focus more on stimulation rather than the building blocks of testosterone. So, and even some of you guys on anabolics might see a benefit due to the dosage of boron, because boron crushes sex hormone binding globulin. So that way it frees up more testosterone for your muscles. Okay? I hope to see from you guys soon. Let me know what you think in the comments.